We're joined in the studio today with Jennifer Lewis. Jennifer Lewis is running for a congressional seat in the 6th District for the Democratic Party. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. I wanted you to maybe tell us a little bit about your background. I know you worked in the mental health industry, and I was wondering how you got started there and what work you actually did.
Sure. So I graduated college with a degree in sociology with a concentration in environmental studies. My first job out of college, I worked at a domestic violence safe house, and I was also trained as a rape crisis counselor. So when I would work in the safe house, I was responsible for answering the hotline and responding as needed. So that would be going to the police station to file a report, going to the emergency room and meeting with a client, holding the hand as a rape victim, went through a rape exam, and then from there we moved down to where we're at now, which is we live in Waynesboro. And for 7 to 8 years, I can't remember how long it was, I worked for the CSB, the local CSB, which is a Community Services Board. And I was worked for a program called the Day Treatment Program, where I would go into the schools. I was assigned a school, and I would go in and provide mental health services to kids that were identified as being at risk. So it would include classroom coaching, so going to class with them and keeping them on task, and then it would also include group therapy and individual therapy. And I left that job to go to my current job, which is hospital liaison case manager. And what I do is I help folks transition from psychiatric care, inpatient care at our state facilities, back out into their communities. So I'm working with Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, disability all the time. And what I see is we don't have enough affordable housing, we don't have enough services, we don't have enough funding, and we don't have enough places for people to live that need more support than just independent apartment. So we need more group homes in our district, assisted living facilities, and nursing homes.
And do you find that your work in the mental health field, that it's influenced your position on the opioid epidemic and the solutions for that?
100%. So much has changed in the mental health field in the last couple of years. And when I go to work on Monday, I have a handful of clients who had a bad drug interaction or a bad drug, I don't mean overdoses, they passed away or anything, but they just did too much of their substance and ended up in a psychiatric hospital. So it's getting folks discharged from the state psychiatric hospital into some sort of treatment program if they're willing to go. Unfortunately, many of them just decide to be discharged and go back to their old ways of living. So we definitely need to, and that's why I support Medicare for All so much, is so that we can fully fund mental health services, which include addiction services.
Now, you've also said that we need to not only increase funding, but hold the pharmaceutical industry accountable. How would you go about doing that, or how would you get that process started in Congress if you're elected?
Well, first, kind of back up to, I'm running a very anti-corruption campaign,
Right.
where we need to get the influence of all lobbyists out of the, we need to get their influence out of Washington or Richmond or wherever we're talking about. So if we take out money out of politics, then the pharmaceutical company is not lobbying our elected officials and getting things that they want, and we're restoring the power to the people. So that's one piece of it. And the second piece is holding the doctors accountable, that, when they're taking special treatment that they get from the pharmaceutical companies, and the doctors are just doling out these prescriptions very irresponsibly. So we need to hold doctors accountable that are writing these prescriptions and getting people addicted to pain pills.
Right. Speaking of money in politics, so the latest campaign reports that were released around June 30th said that you had raised around $72,000, and Ben Klein has an advantage over you on that area. He's raised $393,000 just about, and those are just the last reports.
Sure.
Do you see that as a disadvantage, or do you see yourself as more of the grassroots candidate who's...
I do not think it's a disadvantage. If anything, it's an advantage.
Right.
We are a grassroots campaign, and our average donation is $44, and we're very proud of that. And I don't know the percentage, it's either 90 or 95% of our donors are small donors. And so that is something that I'm very proud of, because when people look at the donations that my opponent is getting and then looking at how he votes, I think you can see the correlation of when you get money, you tend to vote a certain way. to benefit the people who are giving you money. So when I go to Washington in November, or when I win in November and go in January, I want to make sure that people in the 6th District know that I don't have any special interest money behind me. I don't have any corporate PAC money behind me. I only have the people behind me, and I will be their voice in Washington and not the voice of any kind of special interest groups or corporations.
Yeah, so you've said you're running an anti-corruption campaign. What do you see as the biggest issue that you want to tackle?
100% it's money in politics.
Money in politics.
Money in politics. And it's something that's very popular in the district, too, when you're talking about the pipeline issue. Why are we facing a pipeline? It's money in politics. Why don't we have health care for all? It's money in politics. So a lot of the issues that folks in the 6th District care about, the things that I care about, it all can kind of trace back to money in politics.
You mentioned the Atlantic Pipeline. Can you tell me a little bit about Friends of Augusta?
Sure. So I'm president and founder of Friends of Augusta, which is a pipeline opposition group. I've been on the forefront for the last 4 years trying to stop the pipeline. And initially, when I heard about the pipeline, I was horrified about the environmental risks. I've been an environmentalist my whole entire life. So I was extremely concerned about the impacts it would have on our water, our air. And so it kind of started at that angle. But then as I researched it, it broadened my concern about the pipeline issue, and it has expanded to private property rights. I do not support a for-profit corporation being able to come in and take your land without your permission, without you wanting this. And so many people will say, well, we've got pipelines everywhere. What's the big deal? This pipeline is a 42-inch gas pipeline. This is about a little bit larger than the size of a hula hoop. So when you think about the pipelines that are here serving our businesses and homes, they're 10 inches, 12 inches. So it's a much smaller pipeline, much smaller impact to the environment when you're talking about digging up the trenches and the construction of the pipeline. And again, it serves our homes and businesses. This Atlantic Coast Pipeline is not going to serve our communities at all. Zero. When we had asked in the beginning stages of this, I asked when Dominion would host these open houses and these forums, I said, if Augusta County wanted to get this gas, what would it cost? $5 billion for Augusta County just to tap into this pipeline. So our communities are just being taken advantage of. We're just going to be kind of this highway of a gas pipeline going through without any benefit to our communities. An eminent domain was set up saying that the government or somebody can take your land when it's going to benefit the community that it's impacting. This does not meet that requirement. Sometimes a highway or a road or a hospital, a school, those are appropriate reasons to use eminent domain. A for-profit project with gas going overseas, that's not an appropriate use of eminent domain, in my opinion.
So there are a lot of issues that you're talking about in your campaign, a lot of things that you're running on, but there's also been a lot of talk of the blue wave in 2018 of this election being, in a lot of ways, a memorandum on Trump. Do you believe it's a memorandum on Trump?
A little bit, but I think it's more of I think especially in the 6th District, it'll be more of who's really going to have my best interest in mind. And during the primary and even until about 3 weeks ago, Trump never came up. When I would talk to people at the fairs or when I'm out canvassing, it was, what's your number one issue? It was never Trump. And I don't mean never Trump as in never, So we never talked about the president and the administration. However, that has changed within, I say 3 weeks, but it might be more or less. Whenever Trump revoked security clearance for Brennan, thank you. That's really when I saw a change of folks and their concern that we would go to fairs, and for the first time ever, people were like, I'm really worried about the president, and he seems to be out of control.
And you think it was connected with the Brennan?
100%. I mean, that's the only thing I can kind of to correlate it to. So that was quite interesting to take a step back and really look at that and be like, wow, that's really something that people are concerned about. So that is starting to come up a little bit more, but generally speaking, folks are more concerned about the issues that are impacting them day to day. It's not having health care. It's not having a good school to send their kids to. It's not having a living wage. Those are the issues that tend to be the things that people want to talk about.
Now, this appears to be a pretty red district, and of course we have Congressman Bob Goodlatte, who is now exiting, but this has been his district for a while. So I guess my question is, how do you feel about your chances in what is a red district, but in the 10th district, for example, we see incumbent Comstock is in trouble there. She's down by about 9 points in the most recent poll there. So do you feel it'll turn blue? Of course you probably would say that.
I mean, we're having such a great experience on the ground that I feel really positive about our chances in November. And when folks say this is a red district, I like to just point out that more than half of our district doesn't show up to vote in the presidential election. It's even less than that when you talk about Congress. It's even less than that when you talk about city council and school board. So to say it's a 2-to-1 district, it's just not accurate. We don't know what that population that aren't showing up, how they feel about things. So we are making a huge effort into reaching out to those folks who have not had a politician knock on their door in 30 years. We're going to those doors. We're going to the doors of people who aren't showing up to vote and asking them, why aren't you showing up to vote? What do you care about? So we're purposely targeting folks who have felt left out of the political process and felt left behind and ignored. And that's really important for me personally, is to reach those folks, because I'm from rural America. I was born and raised on a dairy farm. And I've never seen a politician, even to this day, show up on my parents' farm to say, what's it like being a farmer? So it's just really important that we reach out to folks who have felt left out.
Now, you have quite a few endorsements, including from Senator Mark Warner, but perhaps the most controversial endorsement was when Bobby Goodlatte, Bob Goodlatte's son, came out to endorse you. Were you surprised by that? Do you know Bobby?
No. So yes, I was surprised, and no, I do not know Bobby personally. He did not coordinate that through our campaign. He literally put up a tweet Sunday night, and our world went into overdrive on Monday morning. So we are extremely appreciative of him, and you know, it's hard to disagree with your family on politics, and I can't imagine how much harder it was for him because his dad is Congressman Bob Goodlatte, and everybody in the country knows who Bob Goodlatte is. So I can only imagine how he probably struggled with, should I do this? Is this right? And I just really respect the fact that he believed in his values so much that he had to say something. And I just really respect that. And I hope, you know, people like to joke, you know, oh, Thanksgiving's going to be tough at the Goodlatte family. And that's funny. Yeah, it's a joke.
Right.
But I really sincerely hope that that's not true, because I would be heartbroken to find out that they're not talking because he decided to endorse us, because politics is politics.
Right. Family
is family. So, you know, my dad voted for Trump. We don't agree on politics. And so when I go home, we just don't talk politics. And that's something that I hope that the Goodlatte family does too, that they can respect each other enough and respect each other's beliefs and different opinion, and just sit around and eat turkey and watch football.
I think that's good advice for all of us, frankly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Jennifer. I really appreciate the time you took out.
Thank you.
All right.